Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Support Podcast. So, my name's Kieran, and today I am joined by Cassie Ngo, a brilliant academic English tutor, researcher, and someone with a wealth of international teaching experience. So, Cassie came to Manchester as an international student herself, and now she's part of the University Centre for Academic English team at the University of Manchester. We'll be talking about learning English, navigating academic life, and some of the exciting work Cassie is doing around AI and education. So, Cassie, thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Kieran. I'm excited to be here and I look forward to our conversation.
Right, well, welcome to the podcast. So, could you start by telling our listeners a little bit about your journey into English language teaching and where did it all begin for you?
Right. So, when I was at school, English was my favorite subject. And not knowing what I wanted to do in the future, I decided to do an undergraduate degree in English language. However, I never wanted to become a teacher because when I was at school, corporal punishment was quite common. I was well behaved most of the times, but still got hit quite a lot. And obviously, I didn't like that. So I never wanted to become one of those teachers who would hit their students. But then, in my last year at university, I got this part-time job teaching English a few hours a week at a language course, and somehow I really enjoyed it. I really liked working with my students, helping them to improve their English, and that's how I got into English language teaching. And that's what I've been doing for the past 11 years.
Okay, so this is where the fantastic journey began. Okay. So you first came to Manchester as an international student yourself. So what do you remember about that time? And how does it influence the way you support your students today?
I remember how I struggled with the Mancunian accent. Like, let's go to the pub, or are you taking the bus? So that was a bit difficult for me. I also remember how I made the mistake of asking a Mancunian of South Asian descent where they were from, and they got very offended. I remember making friends with students from all over the world, learning so much about their cultures, their countries. I even visited some of them in their home countries, and I'm still friends with quite a lot of them. So yeah, as a former international student, I understand the challenges that international students face in Manchester because I've myself faced similar challenges. And I think that puts me in a very good position to support international students. So in terms of how to support students, I believe that one of the most effective ways for international students to make the most of their time here in Manchester is to build up their intercultural communication skills. So I always encourage my students to step out of their bubble, to talk to people not from their cultural backgrounds, to learn about different cultures, to try new cuisines. Because to be fair, there are not so many places in the world that are as diverse as Manchester. There's not so many places like Manchester where you can learn so much about the world.
Definitely, definitely. Because there's only so much time you have in the classroom or in the lecture theatre to really practice and improve your English. There are so many other opportunities out there, going to the shop and practicing your English there, trying it on public transport, joining clubs and hobby groups and things like that. All of those are excellent ways to improve your English as well.
Yeah. And I think it's not just to improve English, it's also for well-being, studying is very important, but having a social life can have a very important impact on your well-being.
Very good point. Very good point. And you yourself, Cassie, you've taught in a variety of different international settings. So what are some of the different challenges you've noticed learners face when studying English, especially those coming from different linguistic or cultural backgrounds?
There are just so many challenges, right? So when I worked in Vietnam, in China, and in Brazil, the main challenge was for students to use English outside the classroom because there was virtually no need for them to do so. Right? In the UK, the challenge is it's more about dealing with the English outside the classroom. Some of my students said that they could understand the teachers perfectly, but they couldn't understand the locals. They couldn't understand the local slangs, the regional accents. And also, those of the same linguistic or cultural backgrounds tend to struggle with specific aspects of English. So I think it's important for teachers to anticipate these challenges so that we can help them to overcome these difficulties.
Yeah, certainly. That's a very good point. At both of our institutions, many students use English as an additional language. What kinds of support do you think are most effective for helping them succeed academically?
Well, I don't know if I can say that this is the most effective way, but I would say one of the ways that I find the most effective is to help students to become independent. Students might expect a great degree of hand-holding from their teachers. And yeah, we can offer that. But at the end of the day, students need to learn to do things themselves. So they need to not only learn academic skills themselves, but also they should be made aware of strategies for independent learning and resources that they can use for their self-study. For example, in my master's degree, I was introduced to the University of Manchester's academic phrase bank, which I found extremely helpful for my writing. Now, as an EAP teacher at the University of Manchester, coincidentally, I keep referring students to this resource, showing them how to make use of it, so that students can be independent, they can write themselves with little support from us teachers.
Yeah, that is a very good point. I mean, especially what you said there about the academic phrase bank. If any of our listeners are here on the YouTube channel, you will see that we do have a video on the academic phrase bank. So if you are intrigued by that, please do pause this, have a look at that video, and then come back to us. But yeah, it is a very good point. Yeah, because there is only so much time you can be on campus and with a tutor or a support team. But for a lot of students, yeah, you have to find a way to use that language yourself and overcome some of those difficulties yourself. And the best way is to learn those strategies, like you said, those structures that can help you going forward. So we've mentioned a little bit about your teaching experience, but you also have some research experience as well. So how do you bring your research into the classroom in a way that is actually useful for students?
So I do this in two ways. The first way is I try to identify a problem in the classroom or a problem related to teaching or learning in general. And then I do research to find solutions to this so that the teaching and the learning experience can be improved. Second, by doing research and presenting at conferences and publishing papers myself, I feel that I am in a good position to support PhD students and even postdoc researchers with their academic writing. I understand the challenges that these researchers face when trying to write up a paper, and I believe I can support them in this process.
Okay, yeah. So it sounds like very useful research that you're conducting at the moment. And one of your focuses is how AI literacy can be integrated into EAP, which is English for Academic Purposes. For students who might not know what that means, what exactly is AI literacy And why do you think it's becoming more important for learners of academic English?
To put it simply, AI literacy means the ability to use AI tools effectively and ethically. So about why it's becoming important for learners of academic English. AI tools can be very helpful for students. They can provide 24-hour support. They can be very useful for those who don't speak English as their first language as well, because AI tools can understand many languages, and AI tools can support students in many ways. For example, with brainstorming, with searching for sources, etc. But at the same time, there are many ethical concerns regarding AI use as well. Things like hallucination, data privacy, bias, and academic misconduct.
Yeah, that is a very serious point there about the use of AI, especially when it comes to essay writing and things like that. We have to be very careful at how we are using AI. But like you said, it is a very powerful and useful tool. But yeah, we need to be responsible of how we use it. So that kind of leads on to another question here of how can students actually use this technology effectively to support their writing or their reading or presentation, things like that, without becoming too reliant on it?
I think it's important that students receive guidance on how to use these tools. Things like what tools should they use, because there are so many out there, and for what purposes they should use these tools. Students should be made aware of the ethical considerations of AI use, and they should learn how to critically evaluate what AI produces. So I believe that we academic English teachers can play a big role in this, that we can help students to learn how to use AI effectively and ethically.
So, can you tell us about a moment for you, either as a student or as a teacher, that has stayed with you and reminded why you love what you do?
So I have a folder on my computer which I created 10 years ago. The folder is called If I Ever Thought of Giving Up. Yeah. So in this folder are photos of the moments that remind me of why I enjoy teaching. There are photos of me with my students, screenshots of messages of students showing their gratitude, photos of anonymous student feedback showing how much they enjoyed my teaching. These things make me feel that my job is meaningful, that is rewarding, and that, things might be tough, but I should never consider giving up on teaching.
I think that's a wonderful idea. Uh, and I'm sure that folder is full of gigabytes of those things because it sounds like you care so much for your students that you give your whole heart and soul and body to these guys. So yeah, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So as someone who has been both a student and a teacher of English, what's one thing you wish more students understood about learning academic English?
I always tell my students that academic English is no one's first language. Even native speakers of English have to learn how to use academic English. And in fact, a big proportion of academic papers were written by non-native speakers of English. I don't know the exact percentage, but I found that China has the highest proportion of papers in the top 10% most cited, with about 30% of these papers having a corresponding author from China. So I hope students can see that academics English is something that non-native speakers of English can master. In fact, many of them have done this.
That is a very good point, Cassie. Yeah, and hopefully that's something our students can keep in their mind because there's no real end to learning academic English. It is just a process, and you can get continually better at it. But it is something that we are all learning. Everybody in academia is always learning and shifting the interpretation of these things. So yeah, I think that's a very good point. Um, what would you say then are some common misconceptions that students might have when they start trying to improve their academic?
I would say that some students tend to think that to improve their academic English, they need to reach the level of proficiency of native speakers. So I always try to make students understand that this is not necessary at all. I myself is a non-native speaker of English. I do make mistakes sometimes when I speak English. I speak English with an accent. A Mancunian friend of mine has said that I speak English with an Asian twang to it. But people can understand me perfectly, both in speaking and in writing. And that's what really matters, So that's what I hope I can show students.
Some students can feel nervous about making mistakes or using their voice in seminars. So do you have any advice for building confidence in academic communication?
Say, I would tell the students that it's completely fine to make mistakes. Native speakers make mistakes as well. But what matters is making yourself understood. Be confident. You have interesting things to say. People want to learn from you. People are listening to you. So just say it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, and we can only learn from our mistakes. Yeah, if we said nothing unless it was perfect, then we would probably say nothing ever. So yeah, I think that's a very good motivational point there. So Cassie, we are coming close to the end now, but I hope you don't mind if we have a couple of quick fire questions before we go. Is that okay?
Let's go.
All right. So I've asked this to everybody so far, and now this is mostly slanted in one direction, but hopefully you can offer a more varied answer for this one. Are you a tea or a coffee person?
I am a bubble tea person.
Okay. You're the first person to say that. Okay, interesting. Why is that your favorite?
I don't like coffee because it makes me feel a bit nauseous. I guess in some cases people call it drunk on coffee. Tea is fine, but I really like bubble tea because of the tapioca. The pearls, they are chewy. They make drinking tea more exciting, more fun, I guess.
Hey, all right. Going back to English for a second, what is your favorite word in English?
Perhaps evanescence. The meaning is beautiful, and it's also a name of a rock band that I really like.
Okay, all right. Well, I will be looking out for assignments now that are using that word, hopefully. So obviously you are a multilingual person. So is there one language that you would love to learn?
I would say Mandarin. So when I was in China, I had some lessons. So I would say I have survivor Mandarin, but I really want to work on it to understand my students better, because here at the University of Manchester we have a lot of Chinese students, and understanding students' first languages can really help you to better support your students.
Hey, well, a very noble answer there from you. Is there a food that you missed most when you were abroad?
There are so many, but if I had to choose one, I would go with quail balut eggs with tamarind sauce. Yeah, vegans and vegetarians would hate me for this, but this is something that I can't find in the UK, and I only can have it in Vietnam. So it's like, yeah, every year when I go home, I'll need to have this.
A bit of a change of direction here. What is maybe like a book or a podcast or an article that has inspired you recently?
A book that I read recently and really enjoyed is My Friends by Frederick Backman. It's a very new book, so maybe people are not aware of it. But Frederick Backman is quite famous. He wrote a few books like A Man Called Ove, or Anxious People. So the book is absolutely beautiful. It's about friendship and marginalized people. I'm not going to say much because I don't want to spoil the content, but I would recommend if you want to read this book. It's quite accessible, so even if you don't speak English as your first language, I think you can still understand this book easily.
Okay. So I hope all of our listeners there were taking note of that one and are ordering copies from a retailer at this moment. We've mentioned that you have been teaching English for quite a while, but if you weren't doing that, what do you think you would be doing instead?
I would like to be a rock star. Even though I know that it's not quite feasible. I had some piano classes when I was younger, but I'm not good enough to even perform in front of people, not mention be a rock star. But you know, it's a dream, and I would love to be a rock star.
Okay, well, there is always still time, you know. And I feel like there is not a lot of piano in modern rock music, so if you could bring that back, I'm sure that would be great.
I mean, we can do something like Coldplay, you know, pop rock, a little bit like that.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be keeping an eye out. Maybe if I'm looking on YouTube in the near future and I see you on there, I will I will be happy that you followed your dream. For the last question, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
I would say don't let people talk you into native speakerism. You can be a great teacher regardless of your first language, of where you're from. I'm saying this because in Vietnam, where I'm from, people still believe that native speakers are better English teachers than Vietnamese teachers of English. And that also means Vietnamese teachers in Vietnam are paid less than native speakers, even though sometimes or most of the times they're more qualified and more experienced.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because just because you speak the language as your first language, it doesn't mean that you know it comprehensively, and it doesn't mean that you are able to teach other people how to do it. And I guess it can be an advantage sometimes to have to teach a language that is your second or third or fourth language, because you have studied it intently, you know the structures and things like that. So yeah, I think that's something we could all agree with. So Cassie, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Thank you for your time and all the insights that you've shared. It has been a pleasure chatting with you today, and I hope our listeners find it useful as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Kieran. Thanks, the audience, for listening in. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
All right. So thank you very much, everybody, and see you soon.